we're always trying to put more arrows in the quiver of our engineers. So there's more than one way to skin a cat out there. So.
Well, and again, I'm with Dr. Craig Rutland. He is the Air Force Civil Engineer Center's Pavements SME subject matter expert, and we can't just grow you overnight. It's taken many years to grow an expert, and I know when we were with our NATO counterparts too, you are the chairman of that conference that we attended, yes. And you were reelected unanimously. They were thrilled to reelect you.
Well, as with many things, there's everything's a double-edged sword, I suspect. There's a lot of work that goes into putting on the meetings and making sure that the information is relevant and timely and useful in order to get more participation from our folks. And it's also important, at these meetings, because we're often dealing with folks that English is not their primary language.
Right. And they were all engineers that were in the room. That was very interesting.
Yes, all engineers.
And again, you had long-term relationships with everyone in there you've known for a long time.
Yeah, most of them I have known for probably 5 or 6 years. We did have a new French delegate, but sounds like he'll be available to work with us for at least 3 or 4 more years. Yeah.
And that was very interesting because the French briefed on how they'd landed in Djibouti, Africa, on a grass airstrip, yes. And so they brought that briefing to the team as another airfield concept. Yes,
they've actually been operating in Africa for a significant period of time, and more specifically on what we would call semi-prepared airfields or dirt airfields. Ones where we don't necessarily pave. And they've been doing a lot of work with the A400, which is kind of a transport aircraft that's, I call it a cross between a C-130 and a C-17. It's got nearly the load capacity of the C-17. But
it had those interesting propellers.
They're turboprops.
Okay.
Very much like those on the C-130Js. So the aircraft's footprint has a tire pressure, and the number of tires and the gear configurations are very similar to the C-130. So that's why I say it's kind of a cross between the two. But we're interested in collaborating with them on some more.
There was a lot of cross collaboration in that meeting that week.
Yes. So we actually have some work going on with the Army Corps of Engineers Engineering Research and Development Center, we call ERDIC. They're looking at operating aircraft like the C-17 and C-130s on very thin pavements, thin asphalt pavements. Mainly because our criterion either assumes that you're on dirt airfield, or it assumes that you're on a competent asphalt that's made to our standards. Well, what happens when you're in between? I'm on asphalt, but it's not to our standards. Now what? Will it hold the aircraft? How many passes? Can I reduce the tire pressure? Normally we tell them to reduce the tire pressure, but right now that's an educated guess on our part,
right.
And so we want to
and again,
do some research
for our listeners, this meeting's all about coming together so that if I have to land on your airfield, I know what to expect. And one thing I wanted you to talk about was that interesting program Paver,
yes,
and what that is, and how it's multilingual. That's so interesting.
Well, again, one of the issues that we run into, particularly since 9/11, we've been doing a lot of operations where we might fall in on top of an airbase that was previously operated and maintained by UK engineers or engineers from the Netherlands or engineers from Belgium or any one of the NATO countries, and we want to make sure that when we pass over the information regarding the infrastructure, what its condition is, what needs to be fixed, how it needs to be fixed, that we're all starting from the same sheet of music. Now, previously, what we would have done is gone out and done if the Air Force was going to show up, we would typically try and get somebody from the U.S., be it one of the contingency response groups or AFIMSC team, the Airfield Pavement Evaluation team, or one of the special tactics teams to go out and do a survey of it.
Survey.
We sometimes would do a full, what we call a PCI survey, a Pavement Condition Index survey. And that basically outlines all of the distresses that are on the airfield and gives you kind of an idea of what maintenance needs to occur over the next few years, and helps you to program projects to get any major repairs done over that time. So the problem that we ran into, though, is one, we would fall in on top of an airfield that, say the French just left. Well, they did their own PCI, but they did it a little bit differently. By the way, it's in French. And so now, our guys are looking at it, that's useless. So they go ask for a whole nother team. Well, that uses up a lot of resources in order to do that. That also takes a little bit of time to occur. Well, we've been working on this method to standardize that pavement condition index, which is, again, a STANAG that we've been working on. There is now agreement among the nations that we're going to do it one particular way. And in order to facilitate having that done, we also have a product that we in the U.S. have been using called Paver. It's available to any DoD organization for free. You can download it and use it. We use it on all of our bases as part of our method for managing our infrastructure. So what we've done is modified that code so that it will also instantly translate from one language to another. So I thought
that was so cool.
Yeah, you can do it in I can do it in English.
Several languages that you had. What are some of the languages?
We have right now a full translation in German, in French, and in Italian.
I mean, that is NATO countries coming together.
Correct.
That's just awesome.
We're working on. We're about 3/4 of the way done in Arabic.
Wow.
We just completed Spanish. We're working on Portuguese and Greek at the moment. And at this last meeting, the Turks had said that they were willing to help us put it in Turkish as well. So when we're done, again, what we hope to have is a product where, regardless of who does the assessment, if they're using that software, with the push of a button, I can instantly translate everything so that everybody understands what distresses exists, what their severity is, what the extent of those distresses are, and what potential repair methods are available to you.
Yeah, that's excellent. And your job is so important for the warfighter, but they're busy flying the airplane and they don't have to think about the airfield. So are you constantly thinking about the warfighter and how to make things better?
Oh, yeah. The whole point about it is we want to make sure that they don't have to worry about it.
Right.
We want a system in place where, quite frankly, everything works smoothly and they can focus on more important things, where to point the pointy stick, and to make sure that we have the logistics that we need. So the more effectively we can construct and manage our infrastructure, the less we have to depend on that air supports to bring in the logistics. If I can reduce that logistical footprint for supporting that operation, then that just means there's more airspace, there's more aircraft for doing the things that need to be done. The reason for us even being there, be that putting bombs on target, or whether it's putting aircraft in the air to provide some interdiction, or be it some disaster relief or humanitarian relief that we need to be able to provide. So the less I have to put in logistically to support the infrastructure, the more guns and butter we can bring to the fight.
So do you dream in innovation? Is that in your dreams every night?
Well,
with Pavements?
It's certainly every I spend a good bit of time trying to figure out, if you see a new product that comes out there, is there some way that I could utilize that idea or capitalize on that? I mean, one of the primary roles that I have is to identify any gaps that we have, or quite frankly, any opportunities. It might be that it's kind of like when you go shopping. You come back with things you didn't even know you needed.
That happens all the time.
So I, on rare occasion, have been known to do that, to bring to the table, here's some things you didn't even know you needed. And every once in a while, we fund an effort to bring it to the table. So, very similar to this product we tried out in Mildenhall. The point was, we'd been using the Osprey for 10, maybe 15 years, and nobody said that there was a problem. And yet I had bases where I'm replacing ramps that had the MB-22s on them, not because they've been overloaded, not because they were, cracked from exceeding the design life. It was because they were deteriorating from the top down. They were so heavily stained, they were starting to rubbleize. And so, again, anything I can do to keep that pavement in good condition and not have to go out and spend that money to rip it out and start over again, so much the better. And so this was one of these instances where we knew we needed something to protect it, and somebody else brought the product to the table. And we were able to say, well, it seems to have all the right characteristics. They weren't using it for that purpose, but we've repurposed it, and I think it's, again, will be an arrow in our engineer's quiver to deal with that problem.
And you've traveled in your job. You get to travel all over the world. I know you told me you got to go to Antarctica.
Yes.
To look at pavements.
Yes.
So how was that?
Well, and there would be one of those instances where, yes, and the pavement isn't pavement; it's ice and snow.
Oh my goodness!
So we have to, but we still have criteria to make sure that the ice is thick enough, the snow is compact enough.
And they land on skis.
Yes,
some sort of ski on the aircraft.
Some do that. For there, they have C-130s equipped with skis that take fuel from McMurdo all the way to the South Pole, and basically during the Antarctic summer, they're constantly every day moving fuel down there so that they can winter over at the South Pole. And the sea ice runways and the snow runway, they have one known as Pegasus that they had. They could put wheeled aircraft on, so we would take sea ice and glacial ice. We would allow the C-17s to land on it.
So did you ever think you would go to Antarctica?
Well, certainly when I was
certainly
when I was in college, that was probably not on my
on
radar screen. Yes, was not on my radar.
So what is the best part of being the Air Force's pavement SME? What is your favorite part?
Well, I do like the opportunity to meet with folks with drastically different backgrounds that allows them to look at some of the same problems we have, but in a completely different manner. And so having the ability to sit down with them and discuss how they approach a particular problem, has been a bit of